Hello, I'm Kate from the Makery. I'm really excited to be working with Seasalt and can't wait to show you this really simple and stylish project that you can make at home. So I'm going to teach you how to make a bookmark. As you can see, I've got a couple of examples here that I've made using Seasalt's beautiful fabric, but you can use any fabric that you like. So what you will need is some fabric. If your fabric is quite lightweight, you'll also need some interfacing. You can have iron-on interfacing or sew-in interfacing. If you've got quite sturdy fabric, you don't need to worry about that. You'll also need some pins, some scissors, a tape measure, and either a needle and thread or a sewing machine. You'll also need an iron and an ironing board. And then an optional extra is if you would like to add a tassel to your bookmark, you can either use a ready-made tassel or you can make your own using some yarn. As you can see, I've used contrasting fabric on the front and back of my bookmark. So if you'd like to do that as well, you need two different fabrics for your bookmark. Take the fabric for the back of your bookmark first of all and cut it into a rectangle that measures 8 centimetres by 25 centimetres. If you're using interfacing, because you've got quite thin fabric, you need to apply that to the back of the front fabric before you cut out the rectangle. So place the interfacing shiny side facing down towards the wrong side of the fabric and iron it on if you're using iron-on interfacing. If you're using sew-in interfacing, you can just place it on top of your fabric. Once you've got your interfacing on top of your fabric, you can also cut out another rectangle from this piece, also measuring 8 by 25 centimetres. Once you've got your front and back pieces of fabric cut into rectangles, you can place them together with the right sides of fabric facing together, and then you need to pin around the 3 edges, so the 2 sides and the top of the fabric. Once you've pinned the 2 pieces of fabric together, you can stitch them together along those 3 edges with a 1 centimetre seam allowance, so 1 centimetre in from the edge. If you like, you can sew by hand with a needle and thread, or you can use a sewing machine. Once you've stitched around those 3 edges, you can clip the corners on the 2 top corners of your fabric. By doing this, you're just losing the excess bulk of the fabric, so when we turn it the right side out, it'll be much neater. So now you can turn the fabric right side out. You may find it easier if you use a pencil or something to push the corners all the way out so that they're nice and crisp. Once you've turned the bookmark right side out, if you give it a good press just to make sure it's nice and flat and all of the edges are nice and clean and crisp. Okay, it's starting to look like a bookmark now. So the last thing to do with the piece of fabric is to tuck in the ends of the fabric by about 1 centimetre at the bottom so that you've got a nice clean hem on the bottom as well. So once you've done that, you can pin and press that hem flat as well. So the next step is to add a tassel or a pom-pom to the bottom. In these ones that I made previously, I've used a pre-made tassel, but today I'm going to show you how to make your own tassel. So you can use any yarn or wool or embroidery thread or anything else that you might have. I'm using some really nice cotton yarn today. So the easiest way to make these is to wrap the yarn around your 4 fingers on one hand, like this. And the more times you wrap it round, the more chunky your tassel will be. So I'd say no less than 15 times. Actually, I'm going to wrap it around a few more times because I think it would be nice if this tassel was nice and chunky. There we go. When you've finished, cut the yarn off at the bottom. And then just under your first finger, so round all of the yarn here, you want to tie a knot. So grab the yarn from the main ball, maybe wrap it round a couple of times, like this. Oops. And then you can take it off your fingers and tie a knot. There we go. We can cut those bits of thread. And then at the bottom, cut through all of those pieces of yarn, like so. We'll trim the other bits so that they're the same length. And then at the top, if you thread the yarn through that loop, and then we'll tie a knot in this yarn to hold it tight on the tassel. There we go, your own homemade tassel. So if you tie another knot in the tassel about 3 centimeters up from the top of the tassel, so about here, we can just trim above that. And then we're going to slide the tassel in between the 2 layers on the bottom of the bookmark, just making sure that the knot is maybe a couple of centimeters up from the bottom. If you pop a pin across there, just to hold the tassel in place, and then we need to stitch up the bottom edge of the bookmark. If you're doing it by machine, if you'd like to, you can just stitch across the bottom. You will see the stitching though, so you might be better off hand stitching this piece. So in order to hand stitch the bottom closed without seeing any of your stitching, we're going to do ladder stitch. So what you want to do is have the thread coming out from one side of your fabric. So I've got it on the front at the moment, and the thread is coming out on the fold of that bottom hem. And then we're going to put the needle in to the other side of the fabric on the back, on the fold, and take it up about 1/2 centimetre. And then it's going to come out on the fold again. And then take it back across to the other side, in on the fold, and move it across. And just keep working your way along the hem, and you'll see as you pull your thread tight, you can't see your stitches. It's like magic. When you get to the tassel, just do a couple of extra stitches either side to make sure that it doesn't move. When you get to the end, you just need to tie a knot in the thread and then snip the end off, and your bookmark is made, unless you would like to personalise it. So on this one here, I cut out a little message with my Cricut machine saying just one more page, and then heat pressed that onto the back of the fabric of the bookmark. And then the one that I've just made, I got some of the same fabric from the front, and I attached some heat and bond to the back, which is kind of like a layer of glue with some paper on the back. And once you've put that onto the fabric, you can cut out any shape that you like. So I cut an L out for my friend, her initial, and then ironed it onto the back of this bookmark, so it'd make a really lovely gift for her. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this project. I've certainly enjoyed teaching you. Happy crafting, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.